Kings, queens, and in-betweens, welcome back to another episode of City Boys. This episode, we are going to be recapping a tumultuous end to a season, to be fair. But as always, I'm joined by two of my best friends, Ethan and Grayson. Ethan, what is today?
It's another day in paradise, gentlemen. I'm glad to be back. It's not the season of dreams, not exactly an ideal debut season for the City Boys, but we made it all the way through. One thing about us is that we're going to see it through. And just like St. Louis City, we did. Grayson, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. It was definitely a long, sometimes painful season.
Mostly.
Mostly painful. I did get to miss out on this match because I was at a wedding, so I was watching some of the game in between hitting the dance floor in between my rum and cokes. But uh,
Hey,
congratulations to Sam and Conrad. It was a hell of a time, and um, definitely got pumped up to see at least one St. Louis goal from the wedding. So I was a little drunk at that point, so it felt good. It felt good. But yeah, other than that, I'm
don't
doing
want
great.
to
Doing great.
don't want to spoil anything, but technically, City scored two goals. Just saying.
We
Technically.
did see two City players hit the back of the net at the very
Yeah.
least.
Honestly, a really tough end to a tough season, if you ask me. And we'll get into how we feel about it in our points, but let's get into this game. Let's put this season behind us and look forward to what's to come. Uh, who wants to start us with the lineups?
It would be my pleasure, gentlemen. And of course, Roman Berkey starting between the sticks. I wasn't sure whether or not he would start this final game of the season. He's our starting goalkeeper. There's no doubt about it. But they brought him. He played. Glad to see. And he made spectacular saves, as always. From right to left, across the back, we had Thomas Totland, Henry Kessler, Joachim Nielsen, and Giannis Horn. This kind of feels like the back line of the future to me. We shall see. The midfield four from right to left, Cedric Toiker goes out on the right midfield position. Akil Watts once again starts in the holding mid role, kind of with Edu Lovin in the center of the park as well. Marcel Hartel out there on the very familiar left side of the field for him. And a strike partnership of Joao Klaus and Simon Betcher featured in this game. Only three subs in this match, somewhat conservative from Hackworth, where I think we're all used to seeing five pretty much no matter what. We see Nofke Thorson, Rasmus Alm, and Jake Girdwood Reich enter the game. Boys, what do we think of this lineup going into the game?
It was
Grayson, I want to
definitely
hear your thoughts. Yeah, you talk about it.
I gotcha. It was definitely like a little rinse and repeat of some of the lineups that we've starting to see come together at the end of the season here. I was definitely excited to see that Klaus and Betcher starting together. Definitely earned from Betcher after his super performance against Houston. He definitely looks dangerous linking up with Klaus as well. So I was definitely excited to see that. Yeah, overall, this is one of our best, most strongest 11. Um, of course, you could say that Akil Watts wouldn't be in our starting 11 and Durkin would be there instead. But other than that, um, this is really like the best 11 we can put out personnel wise. So maybe the score line didn't really reflect exactly how I feel about it.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. When you look at each line that we've got, you think to yourself like, "Oh, we're gonna perform. Like this is definitely our best players." And the fact that they didn't is chalked up to a lot of things. But like, this is probably very similar to what it's gonna look like next season, especially if Hack is gonna be our head coach. So this is something I could get used to seeing. But I didn't really have any issues with the lineup, to be fair. I just had issues with the performance.
Agreed. Agreed. I do think that this is something that we can get slightly used to. I do wonder how players like Celio Pompeu and Thomas Ostrak factor into the team next season and whether or not we decide to make any signings over the summer to or the winter, excuse me, to bolster whatever position we feel necessary.
Yeah, I think we'll probably just end up adding like some depth pieces. We have like a clear idea of who's a starter, and unless we go out and get like a superstar, it's probably going to be along the lines of depth.
I wouldn't mind seeing a starting caliber center back to throw in and compete with some of the guys that we have right now. But yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. It's going to be a long couple months where we can debate and we know that Lutz has been looking at this list a lot longer than we have, so we'll see. We'll see. But moving on, let's see. Let's go ahead and get into our recap.
Alrighty, gentlemen, I'm ready to kick us off. And this game did indeed kick off pretty quickly. Fortunately, not for the right team. In the 3rd minute, Minnesota's Pereira plays Yaboa in with a perfectly weighted outside of the foot pass, but brick wall Henry Kessler made it just too challenging to bring it under his control. And Berkey collects. This is a good example of what I think professional soccer looks like. It's very bang bang. There's a lot of physical contact, and there were pretty legitimate shouts for a penalty from the Minnesota faithful and the 11. Eventually, it even went to VAR, but the referee stood on business. He doubled down on his decision. I'm not gonna lie, boys. For me, I'd probably be clamoring for a penalty if this was against St. Louis. What did y'all make of this call? Do you think it's a PK or no?
It's definitely a very difficult decision. It kind of looks like, from the ref's perspective, that your boy was the one that kicked Kessler. Kessler just happened to put his foot out first. So your boy made contact with him, initiating the trip. Uh, but it's so tricky to decide who's at fault for really a 50-50 collision. So we were super lucky to end up on the right side of that one. And yeah, just gotta say, I think that's retribution for all the crazy penalty misses and
No lie.
drama we've had all season. So yeah.
Yeah, I just think that to be fair to the referees, which is something I don't typically do, um, this is the end of the season. It's the last game. Not a lot was going to change for these two sides, and the referees weren't trying to be the main character of this one. I
Mm.
think the center ref probably does have the best look at it. Like with all the angles from the cameras, with where the center ref was positioned, I think he saw it as perfect as you could.
Yep.
So I'm just going to have to agree with his call. From the angles, I thought it was probably a penalty, but he was standing right there and he was talking to the guy for quite a bit of time, probably even pleading his own case to the VAR referee. So we move on.
Move on indeed, Jacob, because in the 12th minute, Minnesota's Rosales this time would cut in. He would cut out, just putting Totland in the spin cycle. Really great attacking play from him. He would visit across the face of goal. Fortunately for St. Louis City, no one from Minnesota could bang it home, but this is a bit of foreshadowing, I would say. Minnesota, this is not the last chance that Minnesota would have like this. In the 16th minute, Berkey does Berkey things. He saves a really great Rosales shot from the top of the box off a world-class layoff from Robin Lod. Robin Lod was on a mad one this game. He was playing out of his skin. In the 19th minute now, Klaus would pick up a pass that was blocked from a Minnesota player. He picks it up in his own half and ends up actually firing it toward goal. I honestly wasn't too mad about it. I think that players like Klaus and Lovin have the quality. Even Lovin, Klaus, Hartl, Toykert, all those players have the quality and the leg to pull that out. It doesn't really challenge St. Clair, but I think it is pretty exemplary of just how desperately Klaus wants to score and how badly he just wants a sniff of the goal. What did you, Jacob? Did you see anything there?
I have to give mad respect to take a shot from basically 70, almost 80 yards out. You have to respect the cojones that it takes to try to pull that off. As far as execution goes, it looked like he didn't hit it. It like with shots like that, you basically have to hit it perfect, and he was just off from catching the ball cleanly. Like he set himself up well. I'm not sure what the wind was doing in Minnesota. I wasn't in Minnesota. I'm sure the wind played a little bit of a factor, but like just just another inch or so on his foot. And it's probably in the back of the net because it had the height and it had the distance. I'm not mad at it. What do you think, Grayson?
I'm not terribly mad at it. Yeah, once again, just like Ethan said, I'm glad that Klaus is getting shots. But at the same time, like it's clear that St. Louis's attempts on goal just simply are not good enough. And when you see a shot like that or a shot from Roman Berkey, just it reflects how desperate we are as a team. And yeah, like it's nice to see players desperate for a goal, but yeah, we're desperate because we haven't scored much.
Yeah, we probably want to see Klaus taking shots more in our attacking half instead of in our own defensive half. So
It is
yeah,
what it is though.
I think we're all in agreement though. Moving on to the 20th minute, direct right off the back of that shot, Minnesota picked the ball up off an intercepted pass. Dotson plays Yaboa in the center of the field, and he has so much space to run into, and he does. He plays Robin Ladd in behind off the back of Nielsen with like an inch perfect pass. Minnesota's weighted passes were so perfect. I don't doubt that they train them on purpose or do it intentionally. That's how often they happen. Robin Ladd gets in behind Joachim Nielsen and makes it 1-0 in the bottom corner. Just great attacking play from Minnesota, truthfully. If there are any young soccer players listening to this, take notes from that Yaboa pass and that Ladd run. Both of those were a perfect display of how to do both of those things. Just to wrap up my recap, in the 24th minute, Toykert will pick up the ball in a pretty wide area and like not very far into our attacking half. So to me, this has the same look as an early cross, but he has plenty of time to get his head up and pick out a cross. He ends up putting it on target. Dane St. Clair makes like a pretty good save to push it back onto the woodwork. I doubt that Toykert was putting it on goal intentionally. However, it's a chance for St. Louis in the first half. And at this point, we're only down 1-0. I'm not mad about it. Our attacking players are attacking. So, Grayson or Jacob, excuse me, you want to take us through the next 30?
Yeah, this middle 30 was not nearly as action packed as the first 30 or even the final 30. Honestly, most of it takes place at the end of the first half, if I'm being honest, which kind of worked out for me because I did stop watching this game at halftime. I had some other plans taking place Saturday night. But action picks up in the 35th minute when Rosales again whips across into our box. Harvey is the first to meet it, trying to head it back across goal, which he does. But in the process, it takes a deflection off of a Minnesota forward and right toward Berkey, who cleans it up pretty easily. Pretty regular save from Berkey, if you're being honest. Not a lot of danger in that move. But from that save, Berkey goes quick. We get on the counter, and then we kind of get slowed down on the counter. We were pretty high up, but Hartel decided to slow the ball down. The ball eventually gets crossed in by Horn. Minnesota tried to clear it, but it found the head of Toykert, who plays Klaus in from a header. Klaus takes a touch, and then he's like running. His angle is not great in this moment. So, like, the farther he went towards the byline, the less and less angle he had on net. But nonetheless, he ended up taking a shot, which was also pretty easily saved by St. Clair. From here, we jump to the 44th minute where Horn pumps in another cross and Becker's able to flick it on goal, but Becker's like basically at the top of the 18 at this point. So from here, you would need quite a lot of power to get a header into the back of the net. And St. Clair again was able to clean this one up pretty good. I will say, right when we were about to play Minnesota for the first time this season, I had underestimated the quality of St. Clair between the sticks. And in facing him twice now, I think St. Clair's definitely up there as one of MLS's better goalkeepers. I wouldn't say he's one of the best, but he is definitely a solid option to have between the sticks. So shout out Minnesota for that. And then the last action of the half would come from a long shot attempt by none other than my pick to score, Akil Watts, who had his shot deflected for a corner. Nothing ended up coming from the corner, so the ref ended up whistling for halftime pretty quickly. But from what I saw at this point in the match, we were still in it. We weren't playing great, but the scoreline is still making this a game. And then the second half kicked off. The second half kicks off, and there was definitely a different vibe coming from City. We didn't come out hot in our typical City fashion. We kind of looked like we didn't want to lose the game by going for it. And at the same time, Minnesota hadn't really put their foot on our necks quite yet. So most of the start of the second half was a chess match, and that wraps up my 30 minutes. Take us to the end of the game, Grayson.
For sure, for sure. 65th minute, Yeboah picks up a yellow card for a foul, and he's putting the pressure on Kessler. Shortly after, in the 70th, a nice chance falls for João Klaus. Definitely hasn't been looking the most clinical. He bends his shot towards the center of the goal for an easy save for St. Clair. I feel like a lot of our chances just didn't test him enough. Like he didn't have to move too hard for them. So a minute later, we do get a nice, decent chance for Betcher as well as his link-up play with Klaus. Definitely has a benefit to it. Klaus heads it down to him, but he can't keep his shot from keep his shot from going over the bar. 72nd minute, Minnesota ball over the top. Back heel to Frank Ponier, and then to Jong Sun Bin for a nice wide open, easy tap in. No one can mark a man. It was pretty rough to see in that play. But we do bounce back here in the 75th minute. Hartel and Klaus would link up nicely. Cello sends Klaus down the line. He takes his space. He bears down on the box and slots it back across the face of goal. Cello gets on the end of it and fires it into the bottom left corner, finally beating St. Clair. And it would be the final St. Louis City goal of the season. And it looked for just a minute like St. Louis could be back in the match. It's 2-1 at this point, but sadly, this goal would come to be a simple consolation goal in the end. 3 minutes later, in the 78th minute, corner from Minnesota flies in just over Klaus's head. Kessler miscalculates it and sends his header into the floor and up into the upper 90 past his own keeper for a nice little own goal to make it 3-1. So there was the second City goal of the night from Kessler. 83rd minute, the dagger that really killed my soul. A two-man breakaway against 4 St. Louis City defenders easily cuts us apart. Jung Sung Bin again just wants to score more than any St. Louis defender wants to mark him. Great run and desire from the player. Great pass once again to just beat the man. We really just look like cones out there for this goal. It was rough. There's little desire to do anything other than run back towards your goal. So that was the end of the match. Just a brutal end there. Nothing like going out with a whimper, and it just didn't feel great, but really just was a reflection of kind of how the entire season went. Glimpses of greatness, but not enough to win an entire soccer match.
Yeah, this kind of is a part of my point, so I guess I'll just do my point now. But like, I wouldn't say this one was nearly as hard to swallow as recent losses we've taken on our way to try and make this playoff push. My point is the boys are ready for vacation. It like, especially after the own goal, it looked like the team just like really stopped caring about this game, and especially with like how slow we came out to start both halves of the game. I think the team gave us their last bit of emotional energy in the final home game of the season when we beat Houston 3-0. That mentally for them was like their last game. This one was just on the schedule, so it had to be played. And I can't really blame them. Like, this has been a long season. We've gone through a lot of mostly downs this season with very little ups. And I'd be ready to vacation to Bora Bora at this point. Honestly, I am, but I'm not a professional soccer player, so I can't just do that. So I can't even really be mad at them. It is what it is at this point. We have next season to look forward to. They've got a whole off season and then preseason that they're going to prepare for, and then we'll get this thing kicked back off in March, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, just to add on to that, Jacob, it did seem like after that own goal, the wind was out of the sails. The game, we were just coasting to full time, defeated. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little frustrating. And as like just a fan, as a passionate fan, I hope that isn't the reality. Granted, based on what we saw, it's hard to argue that's probably the mentality of this game. Although it's just frustrating. The result speaks for itself in that sense as well. Like if they desired a better result to end the season, I think that would have come. But I think just like us, they were ready for this year to be over, ready for maybe not a hard reset, but some semblance of a break, and then hitting the ground running. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely look like a team that is ready for the season to be over. Minnesota was they're an informed side with some of the best players in the league offensively heading into an offseason where they have a lot of potential to make some upsets. So it definitely showed us once again there's a large gap between us and even like with our top new signings, there's still a large gap between us. It's a little worrisome to show that we're like still this far away from teams like Minnesota and Vancouver, Portland, or Seattle. They're like a little bit better than middle of the pack. Um, so obviously we all know we still have a lot more growing to do. It's just disappointing to see that we can still go into games with a poor mentality, but I mean, it is the last game of the season. We didn't lose anything but 3 points here. So it is what it is. It is what it is.
On top of that, the 3 points really wouldn't have mattered much
Yeah.
for us had we won them. Really, just a consolation prize. Yeah. Well, I'll kick us off into our next point, the second point of our night, because while our attack was fairly lackluster against Minnesota, only producing a single goal, I think that single goal is good evidence that our attack has become extremely fluid, especially since our new signings have arrived. Whether it's the coaching changes, whether it's the new signings that have provided this fluidity, I think it's on display. For the lone goal of the night, Hartzell picked it up in a pretty deep central area. I feel like this is an area we're used to seeing Lovin, even Klaus get the ball in to try and kickstart an attack. But we see Hartzell pick it up there and play it to Klaus up that left channel where we've often seen Klaus, but get the feeling that he's wandering, like just venturing away from the center of the field to try and change his approach to the game. But this felt natural. Klaus was able to produce pretty good service that somehow really found Hartel on the top of the box, but Simon was in a really good central position on that goal, and Thor was hitting the back post really hard. Was crashing late as well. So had there been any crumbs to clean up, a City player most likely would have gotten on the end of that as well. So I think that goal against Minnesota is just a good example of maybe a preview of next year's attack and what to look out for as far as where players will to be in the best positions. We've talked a lot on this podcast about where Teukert and Hartel and even Klaus will find success. But I think after last night, I feel like it's going to be in a few different areas for all the players that I just mentioned next season.
Yeah, I've mentioned it so many times this season how excited I am to see Celio back in this lineup. And I'm gonna repeat it again because just having Cello be our most outside left winger, uh and he definitely wants to play more central. So a lot of the time we don't have that width on the left side or on the wings that we can send our like dynamic wingers running down, or we don't have those runs too often. So it will be nice to have Celio making those runs instead of having Klaus be forced to push over to the left because Cello is in the center of the park instead of pushing out wide, making that run there. So having Celio back in the team and having a dynamic winger who wants to run down the line rather than, cut back and try to create something down the center is gonna bring so much more like dynamic play to our offense. And I'm really excited to see that. I just think we need a bit more people who's willing to run and get on the end of these all these new creators we have in the team.
I actually think like a system that would really fit this team is hilarious because we talked about this all in the most recent City Boys episode and Outside the City, but a Pochettino style system with three at the back, pushing forward
Yeah.
and outside back, having width, and then two like center attacking mids being Hartel and Toykert. Like I am pretty sure Grayson brought this up in one of our episodes where he like picked his starting 11. It was that formation in that system. And like at this point, like I've seen it now. I am convinced. Like I do think that that puts our best players in their best positions and like really stops this like mid block random pressing that isn't like together or unified as a team that like has really gone down recently. Um, but yeah, that's all I've got to say on that. Like,
I want to add on to that, Jacob, because I think specifically with the lineup that we fielded against Minnesota, a tactic and formation like that would work really well when we have a more defensive minded back line featuring three potential center backs. I think Giannis Horn could easily slide into the center back position, but that allows Totland to go forward. If it's a Jake Nerwinski and Jaden Reed pairing at outside back, I feel like those that complements each other well. Maybe when we have Totland and Reed, that's not a tactic that we employ, just given the very attacking nature of both of them. But I agree. I would love to see how Hackworth or whoever the man at the helm is next season could play that, or how City could play that.
Speaking of hack, why don't we get into my final point of our 3 points for this week? Couple of weeks ago, Jacob, I believe, was giving us, for his point, he was giving us a blueprint of what we can expect for the end of the season and what we can do, what City can do in order to prep ourselves in the best possible way for 2025. And I raised the question for the end of the season, would you rather field your strongest available 11, including all of our new signings, to continue to let them gel and get more accustomed to the league? Or do you throw in a bunch of our young, inexperienced guys and try to let them mature, get some minutes, and also get used to the league? We agreed in the end that a good mixture of the two was what would be the most beneficial. But from my opinion, from what I've seen from Hack's lineup and decision making, feel like we've definitely went with the former of the two decisions and played our only best available 11 to let them sort of gel. And we've got a mixed bag of results from that. So do you guys think the end of the season was handled correctly? I know that everyone I've seen on social media has been really hot and cold on Hackworth. Like just after the game against Houston, people were hack in, sign him.
Very
And this
polarizing.
week I'm seeing hack out. He mismanaged another tactical game. So it is hot and cold. So I just wanted to recap how you guys were feeling if these last 4 games of the so were handled correctly. I know you guys specifically wanted to see JGR a bunch more than we got to see, but so what did you guys think? How do you think we handled that?
um, so I'm gonna put myself in Hack's shoes, right? He is not the full-time manager, but he definitely wants the position. And I feel like in his brain, the best way to secure that position was going out and winning. And the best like position he can put himself and the team in to win games is to play the best 11. So I think that's why he went with it. Do I agree with it for like the long-term productivity from the team? No. I stand by what I said. I do think we should have been playing more of a mixed bag of players. And also, like some of those players we wanted to see are playing for City 2 at the same time, and City 2 is making a playoff run. So, like, I'm sure there's some conversation there about, like, let's not have them play senior squad minutes and potentially get hurt just because we want to see them develop. They're going to get a lot of development in a playoff run at City 2. So, it's tough. Like, I feel it's tough to really put down his decisions on and how he handled it because there is a lot of stuff that like we just don't know. And I really can't fault him for wanting to win the job. Now, do I think he did enough to win the job? I feel mixed about that as well. We will see. We're always going to let Lutz cook. Lutz knows best. So if he
That's
gets
a
the
good.
job, he gets the job. If he doesn't get the job, I'm sure someone will come in and take us to greener pastures. What do you think, Ethan?
It's well said, Jacob, because yeah, he is trying to win the full-time job. He's been very vocal about wanting that role. And it seems like based on his actions that he wants to get that job by winning as many games as possible and fielding the best 11 that we have. The reality is that from the playoff run was unsuccessful. We failed early on in that in September, we knew that we weren't going to be making the playoffs. Um, yeah, this is a really tough one for me because I also would have liked to see more young players specifically in the lineup. So players like Kahima, Klein, players like Joyner or McSorley and Glover. But like Jacob said, City 2 are in the midst of a very serious playoff run. City 2 is a very good MLS Next Pro team. And so it seems almost unfair to them to start cherry picking their best players for the first team just to be like, yeah, we know these games results don't really have any implication at all on our season or probably where you stand in our depth chart for next season. You should come play anyways, though. That does seem a little unfair. And so
It's like douchey. Like that's some
But
like
but at
slightly,
the
yeah.
douchey
same
thing
but at the
to
same
do.
time, like as a City 2 player, are you not itching to make your MLS debut no matter what the occasion?
Maybe for players that haven't broken into the first team. I couldn't tell you the three players though. There are only three players on that were on the roster for the LAFC 2 game, the opening round of the MLS Next Pro playoffs that had not seen first team action. So there has at the very least been a lot of squad rotation and a lot of players seeing their first team minutes for the first time. Joyner, McSorley, Glover all got first team minutes and are all very critical parts of that City 2 team. I don't know. I've kind of lost the plot here. I do wish that Hack would have experimented a little bit more at the end of the season. I do understand. Yeah, I think he should have probably played around with the lineup a little more going into the Minnesota game. But coulda, woulda, shoulda at this point. Grayson, I want to hear your stance. What would you have preferred to have seen from Hackworth from these last few matches?
For sure, for sure. My take is what we originally agreed upon is I wanted to see basically this lineup, this best 11, throw out a one or two players and give it put yeah, like take out Watts. We know Watts can play that role. Let's see JGR in a double pivot with Leuven. Let's take out one of our center backs. We've just seen Nilsson finally make it back into the starting 11. It's probably not him. Actually, I don't know if you could take out either one of those center backs at this time because King Kessler, of course, just made it onto the team. You want to give him his minutes, so I keep him. Nilsson coming back from injury,
When
keep
we have
him.
Yarrow and Hebert on the bench, though, it's like I do kind of see what you're saying, Grayson, is you're like, why not play Yarrow and Hebert in this game?
I think specifically for those two, like we know what those two give us. Like they have had lots of
That's
starts.
fair. Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
And we're just starting to play around with this Nilsson Kessler pairing. This is their second game together. So I think it's just trying to get them familiar with each other. And to be honest, I mean, their first game together was lights out. This game, the opposite. So
True.
um, I'm fine with it. I would have liked to see more of not the City 2 players, but the players on City's lineup that haven't exactly made a mark this year, like Alm. I wanted to see a lot more of Alm at the end of the year, or
Mm.
a lot more of Vasilev at the end of the year. Of course, I was curious about Vasilev because yeah, he did not make the bench for this last match, and I didn't even catch why. I don't know if
He
you
had a
guys
knock in training, so I
right.
think he and Durkin just hadn't justified being selected,
Mm,
hadn't worked their way back into full health, and so with I think Hackworth said, yeah, that this game wasn't worth the risk.
sure, sure. Yeah. But yeah, there's like we know that Two Shirt and Hartel and all them bring a lot to the squad. So I wouldn't have minded giving them, they've been here right off the end of their season. And they came out flying. So I wouldn't have minded giving them, 60 minutes and then giving Alm or someone. Even Thor, I'd give Thor 30 minutes this match. I don't care.
Why not let Thor run around and try and make a mark, justified?
Convince me.
What? Yeah, no, I totally hear that. Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
think after this conversation and of course with hindsight, I definitely feel like Hackworth could have played around more, just given players more minutes like Thor, like Alm, like Vasilev, had he been healthy. Yeah.
yeah, it's
I would
just,
like
yeah.
to I want to add like a part two to my initial response to you, Grayson. Um, I also think something we are overlooking is like uh, another benefit to next season is having like our new signings gel as much as possible before the off season. Like, granted, they are part of our best 11, and also we've only had them for a couple of months now. Um, and so like yes, we know what they bring to the table on the field, but like how much more time are we going to get before preseason to like get these players to really gel and like learn even more about their styles of play? Like we saw specifically on our goal, like Hartel's best position is in the center, and that is seen by the fact that he put Klaus through on a goal from basically a central position. And then he went on a 60-yard dash to put himself in position to score the goal. Like if Hartel's not playing, I don't know if we necessarily learn that about his play style in this specific game. Um, so just another way to look at it. There's a lot of moving variables in this that we just get to talk about, which is the best thing on earth. I don't actually have to make any decisions on the team.
Yeah, but yeah, just another quick debate about Hack. I know we all have a long break in between seasons. I'm sure his is going to be quite stressful. Trying to figure out what next season's going to look like, how the job search is going. We'll see. We'll see. But I am excited for next year. Like Jacob said, a much needed break ahead of us. So yeah, sit back, enjoy the rest of MLS playoffs without the added effect that St. Louis could lose, so you don't have to worry about that. So it's a stress-free MLS playoffs. Enjoy it.
No impending heartbreak from our favorite team. That is nice.
Hey, and we'll just go ahead and clap it up. Sporting KC didn't make the playoffs either. Makes me feel pretty good. Pretty
As a
good.
matter of fact, we finished above them in the table.
We can go ahead and take a quick peek at the table here. St. Louis do end in uh let's see, officially 12th place in the Western Conference. If we're talking overall, we're in 24th place, which sounds pretty terrible, but we do have 5 teams behind us. We are better than 5 teams. I'll go ahead and shout them out right here. We are on 37 points, tied with the Union and Toronto. We are 1 point ahead of Nashville on 36 points. We are 6 points ahead of New England, the Revolution, and 6 points ahead of Sporting Kansas City. What's it like down there? How's the weather? Chicago on 30 points and San Jose with 21 points. They
Stinker.
finished with 6 wins. That's crazy.
Clear,
We
clear
finished with
wooden
8,
spin.
so I can't say too much about that.
Clear wooden spoon winners were San Jose, but I was listening to Tom Bogert on the Soccer Wise podcast making a pretty legitimate argument as to why New England was the actual worst team in the league this season. Poor Tim Parker is really all I have to say about that. I feel for him up there.
Yeah, the New England have a negative 37 goal difference. They gave up 74 goals and scored 37, which San Jose let in 4 more goals, but they scored 4 more goals as well. So
That is stinky.
yeah, that's rough. And anyways, back to St. Louis. We had a goal differential of negative 13. It is pretty painful to see that. We put in 50 goals this season, conceded 63. So that puts us with 9 wins, 10 draws, and 15. Oh, sorry, I was looking at Philly. St. Louis with 8 wins, 13 draws, and 13 losses.
Oof.
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 Yeah. It is. I think we did finish with the most draws in the league. I believe this is true. Yeah. I think, yeah, there's no way anyone could have caught us. Kings of sharing. We just love sharing. We're just
We
nice guys.
damn near tied half of our games.
Yeah.
We also damn near lost half of our games.
Yep, 13 and 13.
Rough.
8
That's
wins in an entire season is so much
despicable.
so much worse than I know that St. Louis is capable of. We won the Western Conference last season. I don't know how many times I
Such a
need to say that.
downfall.
I'll never stop saying that because hey, we're a young team. We have many years ahead of us. I'm sure we're gonna have better seasons. I'm sure we're gonna have worse seasons. Fingers crossed. It doesn't happen, but I'm sure it will happen. So
I just made a mistake of looking at the Premier League tables finish from last season, and we are not better than Nottingham Forest as far as records go. Nottingham Forest
That's
had
a fun
9 wins,
comparison.
9 draws, and 20 losses.
hey, we are not getting relegated.
True.
So
Sheffield United last season won 3 games.
Oof. Stinker.
they did get relegated. So
Ugh.
uh this is the good thing about no pro relegation in America. We would have been safe anyways, but we
Just
don't got to
barely.
worry about that.
Just barely.
Just barely.
Not a Champions League level soccer team.
Maybe not. Maybe not at the moment. We do have some former Champions League players though. Mr. Roman.
Also,
So
Thomas Totland.
Thomas Tottenham did play Champions League
At
minutes as
least,
well. So
yeah. Yes, he did.
We'll see. Maybe
Well,
we'll
gents,
throw
we
some
ready
orange.
to
We'll
get
see.
into the final kit clash of the season?
Bow, 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 bow. Bing, 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 bing. Kit Clash, ladies and gentlemen, the final Kit Clash of the season. That's so crazy.
Of the 2024
Yeah,
MLS
at least
season.
the MLS season.
Yeah,
I think
yeah, yeah.
we're definitely planning on keeping Kit Clash around.
Oh, don't worry, don't worry.
It's going to
But
have a different flavor going forward, but it's still going to be Kit Clash.
it'll be sick. Don't worry, it'll be sick. But today we are rating Minnesota United. We're doing their home jerseys, correct? Because
Their homes were the ones we rated in the last one. So this is actually their away kit, if I'm not mistaken. Their
uh,
white one.
It's the
yes,
same. Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
That's
because
what I
their
see as their away jersey.
Galaxy kit is what we clashed in the last Minnesota episode.
I gotta say, it's pretty nice colors on there.
yeah, this little Northern Lights kit.
Yeah, I like the colors.
You like the colors.
Pretty colors.
So yeah, so if you can see it on the screen right here, which I'm editing it, so you should be able to see it. We've got the kids. It's kind of got a little ombre action going on. So starts white on the bottom midsection with the little Northern Lights graphic in the middle. We got like some black fading into some pink, glitching into some light blue. It's very baby blue and baby pink. This is a gender reveal kit. Um, with a I don't know. These Minnesota United kits are pretty unique.
I don't know of any other like those in the world. Like no other patterns. The colors are very unique. Yeah.
Very cool, very cool. I'm gonna go ahead and kick off the ratings. Um, I feel like I always think that kits look better in the game action, looking at it from a photo on the MLS store, especially when there's an $100 price tag right next to it, doesn't look that great. But I'm still gonna rate this kit pretty decently. I'm just gonna go right at a 6.9. Uh
Nice.
yeah. For no other reason. But yeah, it's a solid kit. I'm not gonna go too high on it just because it's a little blocky for my liking, but still solid, still solid. Jacob, what do you got?
I like this kit. Also, you're my hombre too. So very nice wording there for you. I don't really like, I see what you're saying about glitchy. I don't feel it's glitchy. To me, it looks like paintbrushed, which is kind of sick in
I
my
kind of see
opinion.
that.
I also my favorite color is light blue. And so this is like striking home for me. The only time I don't like light blue is when it's in Kansas City. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I actually like this kid. Big fan of their crest. I know people tell me it's a loon. Sure. I don't know what a loon looks like. So I'm gonna rate this kid a little bit higher than you, Grayson, with just a solid 7.7.
Yeah.
Just solid ratings so far tonight. I'm personally a really big fan of this kit, and I wish that this is what the USA red, white, and blue kit looked like, or the pattern
Hmm.
that they had with the color. Obviously, the American color combination, but that kind of pattern on there, I think would that that is the kit, the paintbrush kind of kit that they were looking for me. With this color scheme, Minnesota has got it going on. Very Northern Lights, like you were saying, Grayson. For me, 8.8. We're high on white kits on this podcast, and it introduced two other beautiful colors that accent each other well. It's got the nice black in there, but it manages not to be too harsh. I'm talking like I know anything about fashion. It has pretty colors, and I like it. It's an 8.8 for me.
Another
If
thing it kind of reminds me of, it's given Sully from Monsters Inc.
A
Very
little
true.
bit. a little
Yeah,
bit.
can't hate on that. It's a
My
good guy.
only my only add to it is if the United States does decide to adopt this as like a pattern that they're going to go forward instead of the Volkswagen in USA's case where the Volkswagen logo would be, I just wanted to read America across the front.
I feel like a Target sponsorship for America is pretty right on the
It
nose. Like
is.
True.
Walgreens, you get a Walmart. I hate Walmart.
Walmart as our kid sponsor would just be too
It'd be
much.
terrible. McDonald's. It could happen. It could happen. It's happening.
Uh,
League owned McDonald's. McDonald's already broke into soccer.
Yeah.
that's where the money's at, bro. Can't
League
hate
on.
them.
Burger
Man,
King.
A
so
McDonald's.
McDonald.
so
Enjoy
wild, man.
McDonald with Mbappe.
Normally we'd be getting into the preview around this time. I feel oddly empty that we're not looking forward to our next game.
Hey, we aren't looking towards our next game, so I say we go ahead and predict the winner of these wild card matches that are going to come down tomorrow night. So we have two matches to decide who's going to play in the first round of playoffs. So wild card matches. Game one, we have the Whitecaps versus Portland. And then second game is Montreal versus Atlanta. Definitely two very different strengths in my mind. The West Coast Conference is a lot stronger in
Yeah.
my opinion. So out of these four teams, well, out of these two matchups, who do you think is going to end up on top? We'll start with the West and then we'll go to the East. So who will win in Vancouver versus Portland?
Ooh,
Let's hear from the Portland man first.
you didn't have to do me like that, bro.
You got
Um,
MVP candidate Evander. I think he had like 30 goal contributions this season
It's ridiculous.
versus Brian White leading his squad of whoever else is on that team. I kind of forgot. Ah!
yeah, I do put the Whitecap games behind me mentally. They hurt too bad.
I don't want to think about it.
Um, yeah, I'm gonna predict a Portland W. They've been kind of on a tear towards the end of the season. They're also never out of a game, as we got to see firsthand. Literally, I got to watch it firsthand. Um, but I wouldn't be surprised with a Whitecap W. They also are really good at creating goals out of literally nothing. So that should be a really fun watch. But I'm gonna take Portland in that one. Probably something along the lines of like 4-3, 3-2.
Yeah, I
Ethan
definitely don't
or
doubt that this
Grayson.
this is going to be a good game for sure. What do you think, Ethan?
So Vancouver going into this game against a very good Portland team has lost 4 in a row. They lost to Salt Lake, they lost to LAFC, they lost to Minnesota and to Seattle. So a team that has not won a game in the month of October coming up against Portland Timbers is not going to have a good time. Portland is too good. They don't just have Evander. Felipe Mora couldn't find the back of the net against us, but has 14 other times this season. So he knows what he's doing there. Their Portland's goalkeeper, I'm blanking on his name. He has something to prove. He got dropped from another team. Crepo, Portland's winning the game. They're going to dominate. That's all I have to say about Portland and Vancouver. I'm still not a fan of Brian White, even if him and Simon Betcher are friends. I do not care.
I
I'm
had
gonna
no
have to
idea.
agree. Yeah, I actually did not know they were friends. Where'd you see that? On Instagram or something? They homies?
They did the city voice.
Oh.
Mm.
They play Fortnite together and stuff. Uh I'm gonna say that I have to agree with y'all. I think that there will be an upset. Of course, Portland is the ninth seed versus Whitecaps eighth seed. I think the Whitecaps aren't good. I think we are maybe underestimating them a little bit, but when it comes to form, they really haven't been on it. And Portland has definitely started to show up the end of the season. And as I said, I do rate Evander. I think that dude is sick. I would like to see him pop off in the playoffs because that would really be his true arrival to the club, to the league. I think a lot of people know his name, but when you're competing with Messi for MVP, that's really starts to speak volumes. So let's move into the East. We got Montreal versus Atlanta. Of course, the big storyline here, you have Joseph Martinez playing for Montreal now against his former team where he really took over the league uh, when he played for Atlanta back when they became the expansion team, new to the league, and really took over. So this is going to be a good one. I can't lie, I feel very unfamiliar with Montreal other than, of course, Josef Martinez, but Atlanta has been pretty pretty average this season in my opinion. They lost a lot of big names. Giamakis lost him in the beginning of the season. He was, I think, their MVP last season. So they are, I think, going through a lot of changes, but they're still a real quality squad. So definitely an interesting matchup there. Uh, Jacob, what do you think the scoreline's gonna end up like?
I'm gonna say 2-1. Just for the headlines, I would like to see Joseph Martinez get one over his former club. If I remember correctly, there was like definitely some drama about him leaving the team. I don't think Atlanta United was in the greatest place when he left them. So shouts to them for making it back into the playoffs. I just think it's gonna end in one game. So yeah, I'm gonna take it or Montreal 2-1 over Atlanta.
That is a really, really great storyline. The man who, with his partner Miguel Almiron, brought one of the newer MLS clubs to glory, put a star on the jersey. Now coming back to put out that fire. Speaking of Miguel Almiron, that's kind of a similar career that I expect Evander to have. I think that he'll pop off in the MLS and go to Europe somewhere. Anywho, on the outset, I really want to pick Montreal because I think Atlanta has really underperformed this season. But that new signing, Alexei Miranchuk, is real. That is a very good player. He's gonna do some damage next season in the MLS. I don't think he's on the level of Hartle, but man, he's turned around a pretty sleepy Atlanta United. It's going to be a tough one. I'm going to say Montreal draws it out in penalties. I'm going to say 1-1 with 4-3 on penalties. We're going to see a miss and a save.
Wow.
Okay. I would like to point out that I just noticed these two teams played not too long ago, actually. Uh, two games ago they played against each other, and the scoreline ended 2-1 with a brace for Joseph Martinez. So, Jacob, if history can repeat itself, Jacob will be correct. Man of the match for the former United man, with Daniel Rios being the only person to get on the score sheet for Atlanta. But yeah, Mjornchuk did have a good game still, even though he was quiet on the score line. But yeah, I think it's going to be another decently close game, but I don't know. I feel like Atlanta's gonna pull an upset here for some reason. I don't know who's gonna do it, but I think they're
Okay.
gonna do it.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that can move us into grab bags. Do we have any final notes for this episode?
Oh, I got so many.
I
But
have two. One that I want to start with because it's very recent news for City. We re-signed Josh Yarrow to a 1-year contract extension,
that's a good
and
news.
we put something out on our Instagram. Shout out to Ethan for doing that. I'm looking at this as Josh Yarrow has been linked with San Diego as a potential signing for them. And with the super draft coming up if we were to have let Josh Yarrow go at the end of the season, theoretically, San Diego could have picked him up and then also taken another player in the super
Yep.
draft from St. Louis. So doing this, not only is Josh Yarrow a great option off the bench, this also protects us from potentially getting two players taken from us. If they really want Josh Yarrow, they're going to have to take him in the super draft, not pick him up in free agency. So I think this is big brain move by Lutz. And it works out for all parties because Josh Yarrow is going to get paid for another year. We have a great
Yep.
option coming off the bench. And also, we're not going to get fucked in a super draft. So,
Yeah, the worst case scenario in this move is that we have Josh Yarrow for another year. Not going to be
Oh,
upset about it.
that's
Yeah,
great.
great player.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely hype to protect the pocketbook, protect the player, protect the team. So smart business there. And excited to see Josh Yarrow hopefully stick around. So we'll see. We'll see.
I thought this was really interesting. I saw it on Facebook, and it did kind of give me a different outlook on Klaus. I know we've been a very big protector of Klaus on this podcast. We do see the work he does that isn't scoring goals, and this statistic is pretty eye-opening. Klaus has not scored a goal in the last 16 matches he has played in, which is almost half of a season. He has not scored a goal. Um, I still am going to stick by Klaus. I think what he does on the field that isn't scoring goals is huge to the success of this team. And also for us to be really successful, Klaus has got to score goals.
I believe his total goal contributions for this season comes out to like 8 or something like that.
Or
Oh,
5 goals and 2 assists.
yes. That's just never going to be good enough from your starting striker.
A DP nonetheless.
Yeah, someone on who knows what will happen with his contract based on the offseason, but that's just not good enough. It's not good enough from the starting striker. Simon Betcher came in and in half the time was nearly as productive. Yeah.
I will say a lot of our top players have underperformed this season. Um, of course, Klaus last season put up 10 goals and 2 assists. So this season he dropped 5 goals. But he only played 8 more games last season. So this is about the match output we got. We got to see him a little bit more this year. But when you look at these players' entire careers, specifically like Klaus and Leuven, the output we're seeing now is the best that he's ever had. Like Klaus in his past, let's see, since 2021, his best season was 6 goals for Standard Liège in Belgium. So having his first MLS season be 10 goals is a pretty good like leap ahead of what he's used to. And having him come off that with a 5 goal season, of course, we are seeing like the sophomore slump that we are seeing around the whole team. So I'm not terribly worried when his bad season is still better than his average season by far. He's still rocking a 7.0 average rating, which it is the worst. It's like last year he got a 7.2. So we're seeing a bit of drop off in numbers, but the quality is still there. Um, so and same with Leuven. Like Leuven last season, I believe had uh let's see, Leuven last season had 7 goals and 10 assists. This year he had 6 goals and 5 assists. So 5 goals taken away from Leuven as well as Klaus. But the goals on his output are still there, and that is the best season of Leuven's career as well. Like his best season other than that was for FC Nuremberg in 2017. He had 5 goals and 3 assists. So like what we're seeing now is like these are players who are super quality and they've never performed like this good before. So when we are like comparing them to their best season ever yet. Um, there's going to be some drawbacks, and especially when the entire team is not performing. So as soon as we can get St. Louis on the up and up, I'm sure everyone's numbers will follow. We'll start to see some free-flowing soccer again. We'll get to see Klaus hopefully putting in some more goals than we did last year. Because I mean, last year we had 3 strikers with 10 goals. This year we have one with 5. And then of course Betcher coming in late and providing a lot. Shirt coming in late, providing a lot. So a full season for all of our players, I think, will be a big benefit.
I did some digging into Klaus's career because I made the YouTube short. So in my head, I was like, I thought Klaus definitely had like a superstar season in his bag.
Yeah, in
Um,
like 2016 or something.
in
Or
2018, in wherever the Vikhaus Liga is, which I'm sure is
2018 and 2019, yeah.
yeah, wherever that is, which I'm sure is not MLS caliber because apparently
Finland.
we're rated as one of the top 10 leagues in the world. If we can get this Klaus 21 goals and 4 assists in 33 matches, if we can get that João Klaus, he's going to shut a lot of people's mouths, and that's exactly what we need is a 21 goals in a season forward.
Yeah, he produced that twice. He had a 22 goal season and then a 20 goal season 2 years apart. And then the season after that, he earned a big move to Hoffenheim. And he saw his drop off there. But if you look at his match rating, he's still a better player now than he was then, which is pretty interesting.
I just can't help but wonder what 16 more Klaus goals would have done to our point total this season, especially given that we had 25 points dropped from leading positions. I think a few of those insurance goals might have done us well.
It definitely would have put us in outside of the negative in goal difference at the very
Yeah.
least. Maybe we
Yeah.
draw all of the games that we lost, you know?
We know Klaus to be a very streaky player,
Yeah.
so it was hard to see him not. He only got one real good scoring streak this season. Like last year, I think yeah, he had one in the beginning of the season, one at the end of the season, so resulting in 10 goals. So hopefully with the the off season, getting a nice refresh, pop some goals in preseason, and we'll be back to flying. But I wouldn't mind seeing a good finisher be thrown into the mix here. I like what we've seen from Betcher so far. I think he's really solid.
I got some grab bag stuff that I want to talk about too. So I'm going to kick it off with City 2. As we said earlier, they have advanced into the next round of the Next Pro playoffs. A goal from Brandon McSorley, and then in added time, a goal from Akai Joyner lifted them to a victory over our opponents from California. The opponent draw will be happening tomorrow, I believe. So we won't know who they're playing this weekend until later on. But I saw tickets were super cheap for the game. City 2 game at City Park for $16 is worth going to.
It was 13
Definitely.
when I checked too.
Oh, so they've even
$3
decreased. So
discount.
yeah, definitely get out there if you can. Be loud, be proud. I think I saw something like 5,000 fans came out for their first round matchup. That's huge. Definitely keep that up. And while we're on the topic of City 2, word on the street from Chief Experience Officer Matt Seebeck. They're getting their own kits next year, boys.
Ooh.
That's pretty fire. Yeah, separate from the first team's kits, it seems like. Granted, I'm not sure. I'm excited though. The city design team always pops off. They have so much good stuff. So I can only imagine that they're going to put out something great for one of the best MLS Next Pro teams.
Yeah, definitely much deserved for them to get out of those gray practice kits we saw all season. Um, that definitely
Which,
looks
to
like
be
the
fair,
the
I low
FIFA
key think
default.
I low key think those kids are nice. Like it's a nice grade.
They're
It's not
fine.
like a
They're
bad
They're
fine.
fairly
grade.
clean. I'll
Yeah.
admit they are clean.
They're fine. They look like
Just
I don't know. They remind me of a Scott Gallagher gray kit. Just not a fan. But I will say, hyping up STL2, they were fantastic in that match. You can catch their playoff games on Apple TV, right where you would watch your regular St. Louis City matchups. So don't forget, if you can't make it to the match, you can still watch them on Apple TV and support the boys in that way. It was a great game to watch. Super exciting. Jaden Reed got some minutes there, so you will get to see some familiar faces if you haven't watched City 2 before. But it was a entertaining match to say the least.
Hema and Klein started that game as well. So
Yep.
there's first team players playing and thriving, it seems like.
Oh, for sure. And speaking of first team, most of the first team was at that match. A lot of them sitting up in the box, but you had Nowitzki and Vasilev sitting right behind the bench. So there's another incentive if you want to possibly catch some players, you could pop out to the match and hang out. It'll be a good time.
Speaking of teams getting new kits next year, San Diego getting the announcement that we're going to be playing them March 1st, 2025. Mark your calendars now. I've already seen on All for City Twitter that the road trips are being planned. So if you are in that area, I would say get ready. The City faithful show out all over the country. So I would, if you're in that area, get ready for it. While we're also, I'm a segue king in this grab bag. On the topic of match day one, I believe February 22nd, February 23rd is the expected match day one. That's a Saturday and Sunday in February. That's when San Diego will be playing their first match against Los Angeles Galaxy.
Mhm.
We'll be playing in San
tough.
Diego on March 1st.
They open their year tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
rough. I hope they're ready.
Welcome to the league.
It's an exciting prospect though, aren't they?
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's
I'm
definitely rumors
definitely
they're gonna pick
yeah.
up Lozano. Just rumors at this point, but you never know.
Freaking
Um,
Kevin De Bruyne was rumored.
yeah, Kevin De
Yeah,
Bruyne
that's
linked. There's
Sergio
some
Ramos
scary
was at some
names getting
point.
thrown around. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it. But hey, we'll see. I doubt they can beat our record as best expansion team.
No shot.
Cannot be done.
It's really
Um,
impressive that we got that done in the West too. That
yeah,
is the West is so much stronger than the East.
yeah.
Also, it's like we can guarantee that they won't beat the start because we play them as their second match, which also needs to be said is going to be their first ever home match.
Yep.
So, like,
It'll be an
we could
interesting one.
guarantee that our record stays if we beat them.
Hey,
Crash the party,
let's
St.
get an away
Louis.
win early.
Yes, get it out of the
Oh,
way.
please. Yeah. Break that duck.
Which also indicates that because our second game is going to be on the road, we are going to be hosting at home match day one.
Oh
It's
yeah.
gonna be a party at City Park.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if one of us or multiple of us will be there. We'll see, but it will be an exciting next season for all of us. Um, if you're a fan of the pod and not just St. Louis City, I'm sure we will have a bunch of crazy stuff happening for you guys in the off season as well as during next season. Big moves. We'll still be around. Don't forget about us. So please stay tuned. We're gonna keep posting content other than city content. We'll still talk about city too during the off season. So don't worry. We'll give you your fix. So yeah, just keep in touch. Don't be a stranger.
City's over for the team, not for the City Boys. We're just getting started.
And the best way to keep in touch and follow along is if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. If you are listening on Spotify, make sure you follow and rate 5 stars. Go follow all the socials, links in the description. I'm sure they would have been thrown over the screen at this point by now as well. And most importantly, especially because the season's over, don't forget to tell your mother that you love her. Peace. STL.
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 STL.